Hey, it's Dave. Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to talk about what it feels like getting to be metabolic, metabolically dysfunctional and what it feels like trying to reverse it. My story is probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years back is when I started feeling a little bit of dysfunction, which would have probably been pre-diabetes, diabetes back then. But I didn't know anything about blood sugar testing. I didn't know anything about diabetes or prediabetes. I didn't even know that there was anything wrong with me back then. But as I'm working on this now, I'm realizing that there were indicators back then. I had all these things that were happening to my body throughout the years that, like I said, now it makes sense that it was probably diabetes, prediabetes. But I always made an excuse that it would be something else. It was something associated with the military. It was a pesticide that I had gotten into. Maybe I had an allergy to some type of bread or something. I always associated it with something else, which quite honestly is not a good thing. I wish I would have gotten the A1C and gotten the blood test back then and realized that I had diabetic and pre-diabetic problems. It would have made my life much easier right now. So I had been working along the process of becoming more and more metabolically dysfunctional, which, I mean, I think it is diabetes and prediabetes, but it's different because diabetes and prediabetes is just a number on an A1C test. It's not necessarily a reflection of the dysfunction that your body has experienced. The dysfunction part is retinopathy, neuropathy. There's a whole list, a laundry list of problems and issues that you have when you become metabolically dysfunctional, which I breezed right past all that. At one point, I weighed 180 pounds, in between 160 and 180 pounds. And as I got closer and closer and closer to metabolically dysfunctional, that would be past diabetes and prediabetes, I started losing weight. I started losing noticeable amounts of weight. Now, I was never a big guy. I always weighed 125, 160, 180 pounds. So most of my weight was around my stomach. Visceral fat is what they call it. And as I got closer and closer to that metabolic dysfunction point, I started losing weight around my stomach, but I also started losing weight in my body in general. My legs got very skinny, my arms got very skinny. And again, I've always been skinny, so it wasn't completely weird. It wasn't like if I gained 400 pounds, that would be very, very visible and obvious. What I had was not obvious at all. Now, I did have friends and coworkers that have said, wow, it looks like you lost a lot of weight. I remember my family telling me that I was losing a lot of weight, and I knew that I was losing weight. I mean, I have a scale, but I knew I was losing weight, but I had no idea what it was from. I didn't know that it was diet related or health related. Now, I will say that I always had not a horrible diet, but not a healthy diet. I ate a lot of carbs, a lot of rice, a lot of noodles. Everything had rice and noodles. And of course, there was always meat, but it was always 50% to 70% rice and noodles. Oh, and the milkshakes, the cream puffs, the donuts. Yeah, I loved all those. But I breezed right past the part where I gained weight and they made me fat. I'd already become insulin resistant by the time that I started getting the habit of enjoying all the sugars. And of course, my body, in the metabolic dysfunction, I craved those sugars. Those sugars would be the only thing that would satisfy me at that point. Oh, and alcohol too. I loved alcohol. I had other things that I was dealing with that alcohol was a good vent for me, which again is just carbs. I drink a lot of beer, so I got a lot of carbs from beer, which I'm sure progressed me right past the point of metabolic syndrome and complete dysfunction. But at one point, I had lost so much weight, it was kind of uncomfortable looking. Then I went through some other cycles in life that made me even disregard health even more, if it's even possible. I mean, at one point, I ate a lot of meat. I ate more healthy. I got more exercise. But as I moved through this next cycle in life that I was dealing with, my my physical um, conditioning was less of an urgency for me. Of course, I had to keep eating. Did I start keep eating meat and more healthy stuff? No. I ate a lot of Pop Tarts. I ate a lot of breakfast cereal. I ate a lot of rice. I ate a lot of noodles. Easy things to make. And that made things even worse for me. So I got to the point where I was not just pre-diabetic or diabetic anymore, but definitely metabolically dysfunctional. And that's where I lost so much weight. It scared me to the point that I had to figure out what the heck was going on here. Now, I had been to a doctor before, and I was misdiagnosed. They tried to give me medications that are prescriptions that were not. I'm glad I didn't take their advice, because that would have made things worse and just been worse. They decided that I had MS, that I don't even remember all the things that they said was wrong with me, but all they were trying to do was get the slam dunk prescription. And the more that I read up on it, the more I researched, the less it made sense. Which now I'm thankful that I didn't do that, or I would have been on MS medications for 15 years, which I don't know what that would have done long term. I don't think it would have helped, but it would have been good if I would have gotten an A1C and they would have realized that my problem was my blood sugars. It probably would have put me in a different position today. But anyway, so back to my story. I was metabolically dysfunctional for so long that I got very bad neuropathy on my fingers, my hands, my stomach. I got retinopathy where my eyes still work, but it's like even though I have a subscription, it still makes it so sometimes my eyes aren't completely clear, which again is always diet related. And 2 years ago, I realized that there was a very big problem, and I started making changes. I, I started doing I started doing ketovore at that point, and I started eating no carbs. I stopped eating carbs, except for I do like to eat apples. Apples is the only sweetness that I eat anymore, and I do like to eat apples. But so I had lost so much weight. I had lost so much bone mass and muscle mass that I mean I looked like I was all skin and bone. It was scary actually. That's when I realized that I had to make some changes, and my diet was the most important thing. Now this is the part where the doctors and the people on YouTube, they don't know what this part feels like. They know what it feels like when you have a high A1C, and what it feels like when they tell you, "Oh, you've got to stop eating carbs and change your diet." Like they know about all that, but they don't know about how difficult it is with neuropathy, how hard it is to button a button or to work a zipper or to do anything with any kind of muscle, like any kind of muscle dexterity or coordination. And they don't necessarily know what that feels like or how that looks. So I want to definitely talk about that in this channel. If you're going through this, hopefully I'll talk about something or say something that makes sense to you and makes your day a little bit easier and makes things make a little bit more sense. So I'm a year into ketovore carnivore. I have seen some pretty significant changes, but it's not that much easier yet. It was actually much easier the slippery slide slope down into this process than it is trying to climb my way out the other side. Changing your diet and changing your lifestyle for your health, probably because you have to, is difficult because it doesn't take like 10 days or 20 days or 30 days to resolve some of these issues. Maybe takes a year, 2 years. Oh man, I'm hoping it takes much less, but it doesn't feel like it. So I'm a year into carnivore, ketovore. I have receipts of when the last time I bought Pop Tarts or breakfast cereal, any of the garbage that I was buying. I used to buy sugar. I used to buy big bags of sugar. I would use it in my coffee. I would use it in anything and everything. So I have receipts dating back to June of not this last year, but the year previous. That was when I bought my last delivery of very unhealthy foods. Everything since then has been either carnivore or ketovore. No sugar. I use a sugar substitute, a sweetener. I use allulose, which I like a lot. I don't use it that much. I try to use it just for coffee, if I have coffee, if I can have coffee. But I use that little bit of sweetener. So that was a year ago since I've been not having any of that, and I haven't seen like any drastic upside in my physical health. I'm starting to get some of the feeling back in my fingers, so the neuropathy is kind of resolving a little bit, but it's not quick. It's like every day, every night. It's a little tiny bit better, but it's not like I'm much better where I'm going to go for a 2-mile walk. I'm not able to do that at this point. I'm lucky. I feel lucky to be able to go up and get my mail. Because part of the problems with neuropathy and this whole metabolic syndrome thing is you can lose strength, you can lose your balance, and the last thing you want to do is end up on your sidewalk and not be able to get up and get back to your house. And yes, that has happened to me a couple times. Luckily, neighbors have helped me out. So in this channel, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, I will post some of the things that have started getting better for me. Any other changes that I've made diet-wise that make sense. And hopefully I'll be sharing some good news. That's something that I hope to share. I need the good news myself. And I have friends and relatives that would love to hear some good news with regards to my particular condition. And I'd like to share it with all of you because, again, if I can help anybody avoid what I've been through in the last 2 years, I would like to do that. Now, some things that have resolved for me, which I'm pretty happy about, is I had a lot of weird skin things that did start resolving and continues to resolve as my diet stays clean and healthy. I had the ringing in my ears, which seems to have resolved. I am starting to get my strength back. I'm starting to get bone mass back. It's really weird. Now that I'm starting to get some bone mass back, at least I believe that this is what it is. All my bones, anytime I move my bones around, my bones click and like it feels like I need to, I don't know, pop the joint or something. And that happens in my hands for sure, in my elbows. It started happening in my shoulders and a little bit in my back. I can stretch my back and pop the bones in my back. And my feet, when I walk around my house, I can hear the bones in my ankles and the bones in my knees popping. And I'm hoping that this is my bone structure re-strengthening and getting better. I hope. I don't know, but I hope it is. If it isn't, I'll be sharing that here. And if it's getting better, I'll be sharing that here. Now, one thing that I have noticed over the last year is that the closer I stay to carnivore, and ketovore obviously, but carnivore for sure, my eyesight, my neuropathy is resolving and reversing for the better. Like sometimes, depending on what I eat, if I eat too many apples, too many carbs, the eyesight on my left side gets less clear and the right side is much clearer. I think that I have a situation where my right side wasn't quietly as negatively impacted as my left side. Like my left eye, I have to focus a little bit more to keep it focused, and my left hand is difficult to function more so than my right hand, which I'm sure there's plenty of jokes about that. I know. So go ahead and send me a note about it, and I'll delete it, and that'll be good. We'll both have a good laugh. So this is my experience in recovering, trying to recover from metabolic syndrome, diabetes, prediabetes. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about anything. So don't take anything I say here as advice or anything. I don't know anything about anything. But if there's anything that I can say here that will help you in resolving or at least feeling like you're not alone dealing with this crap, I hope this helps. If you subscribe to my channel, I'll be adding more content, hopefully with good news like this, and I would really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.